to be on. I'm hoping that Peter will show up here quickly so you'll get both of the co-founders. A lot of people call us the owners of the. Hey, Peter is here. Hello, Peter. How are you?
Hey, hello, everyone.
Welcome, Peter. Thanks for being here.
Yep, glad to be with this group. Thank you.
So very
Richard,
quickly,
you go ahead.
Yep, I'll start, Peter, and then you can follow up. So Transact Card was created by the minds of a host of people with Peter and I as the co-founders. Peter is the instigator and the creator and the person that put together everything on the banking side of things. I put everything together on the e-commerce side of things. We took both our worlds and collided them together and created an ecosystem in the banking industry that we believe will set the world on fire if we're allowed to continue to do what we're doing. I know that will take place because we do it one of two ways. Number one, we bring a value proposition to the card user, the person that just wants something more out of their banking structure than they currently have. And we call that FinMo banking or financial momentum banking. We didn't term that terminology. The Association of Bankers did. It's actually on our website. So when you see the evolution of banks and read about FinMo banking, you can click right on that association and see what they're all about. But we feel very proud and very honored to service who we're servicing. Most banks service big clients. Governments, they love giving loans to governments, federal, state, and local governments. And they also like to give loans to big Fortune 500 companies. There's very few banking institutions that are really focused on the natural person, the individual, and their family. And that's really where we fall in. We want to service everybody that has to deal with banking whatsoever. And we do that in a very unique way with our ZBuck and our ZBuck program. Everybody's seen card programs. There's points and frequent flyer miles and cash back, and they're all over the place. And a lot of them are smoke and mirrors, or you have to have a quantum computer figure out how to get your frequent flyers and convert them over to an actual flight. And we wanted to create something simple, direct, and profound for a family so that they can actually stretch their dollars a whole lot further than they ever imagined they could. And that's what we've done with the Transact card. This little green card has some components to it that are second to none when it comes to a bank card. This is not a credit card. This is a bank account. This is a debit card vehicle that directly corresponds with a bank account. That bank account is fully FDIC insured, and we're very, very, very secure in all the things that we do with our online banking portal and how we put people through KYC to make sure that the utmost protection around your money is done. But where we really shine is every time you present this card, anywhere you present a debit card, paying your light bills, paying your Wi-Fi, putting gas in your vehicles, or even shopping at Costco or anywhere else that you shop that the Visa logo is accepted. Every time you swipe this card, you get a dollar for dollar ZBuck that we issue to you. So for every dollar you spend, we issue out a ZBuck. That ZBuck can be redeemed inside of our e-commerce site called the Z Club, much like a Costco membership or a Sam's Club membership or even a Prime membership. We just think we have a better value proposition than any of those big box stores or Amazon, the behemoth or the giant monkey in the room. So we're bringing on thousands and thousands of products that you'll want to redeem your Z-Bucks on. And we do it in one of three ways. One, we have a dual spend. So right now, diapers, I was blown away when I found out, when I started putting this together with Peter, I started finding out what Huggies and Loves go for. A lot of us are older now and our grandkids are in diapers and not our kids. but boy, it's a heartburn for our children to have to buy $54 for a box of diapers. I remember complaining about it when I was young, being $20 a box. And now that they're $54 a box, that's a big burden on families. We'll be able to sell the same type of diaper coming from the same manufacturer. We might have our own Kirtland type brand, but they'll be manufactured the same place Huggies and Loves are made, and we'll be able to sell them for a fraction of that $54. In fact, you'll probably be able to buy them for $54, use 25 or 30 Z-Bucks and pay the rest in cash. So if you could get your diapers for under $20, that'd make it substantial. That's one dual spend. It's not just diapers. It's not just things you buy in the grocery store. It's all types of products, from Airstream camper trailers to Nike shoes to golf clubs to perfume to everything you can imagine. And we're just going to continue to grow that out. And a lot of people scratch their head and say, why are you able to do this and have this kind of savings? We just know how to reach in behind the e-commerce and a wholesale distribution and be able to get your products at a much, much better price. And primarily that's because of the way this company's been structured. It's for the benefit of its cards members and its digital branch offices. And that's where we're going to put it. This company's never going to be up for sale. The second way that we redeem those Z-Bucks in that Z Club is we have what we call flash sales. So we'll bring MacBook Pro computers, Ray-Ban sunglasses, all types of products, K-Tech blenders, all those types of products. So a PowerBook sells for about $2,200. We'll sell it for the same $2,200, but your cash isn't good on a flash sale. It's Z-Bucks only. So you'll have to actually spend 2,200 Z-Bucks. And then the third and final way that we redeem our Z-Bucks is we've got what we call Z-Trips. Everything from a cruise. We've already got engaged with a cruise line. We're going to be doing a cruise next year about this time. And basically you'll be able to get on the boat and pay for your boarding ticket with nothing but Z-Bucks, and same with resort destinations. So those are the types of things that we put together on the e-commerce side of things. But what we wanted to do is make sure that when people get their choice to pull out a card out of their wallet or out of their purse, this green one is the one that's the value proposition for them, because it doesn't put them in debt. It's a debit card. It's easily loaded, and you swipe and you earn a Z-Buck. Patrick, is there any questions about that so far?
Well, you answered one of them. I think that I had is how big is the marketplace going to be where within the system that we can use, and because obviously Amazon has everything, and comparing the two between us and them, how do you have access to so much product? How soon are you going to be adding in products? Because this, in a very real sense, is only as good as the selection of products and services available.
Very well said, and I'll answer that in a very poignant and direct way. I've been in e-commerce and in wholesale distribution and importing and exporting pretty much my whole career. I'm the individual that actually invented the color change t-shirt. I took a mood ring to the professor at Brigham Young University. I tell you that because that's how I got my start in import-export. Once he put it under microscope and broke it down and said, yep, it's an organic crystal, it rotates on its axis. Do you want a patent? And I said, I don't know how to get a patent. He said, well, I'll take care of that for you. And he helped me get 7 different patents. He also took me to Matsui of Japan, where they were the foremost chemists, experts, that were able to put that organic crystal in state inside a slurry so that it would work on all kinds of things. In fact, the most famous product is Coors Light. The Rocky Mountains turn blue when the beer's cold enough. Derivative of the same technology. I tell you that because part of our t-shirts came out of domestic goods, Fruit of the Loom and Hanes, and the other portion came from imports. And the imports tended to be a better quality and about half the price. Well, once I sold the company, the buyer decided to cut off the imports and just deal with domestics. And one of the importers approached me. This is many, many years ago. I'm 55 years old right now. It happened when I was 23. And he approached me and said, I can get you just about anything. I said, like what? And he said, I don't care. Go to Nordstrom's to pick out something. So I went to Nordstrom's and got a coat, held it up to him very quickly and said, what can you get this coat for? And he says, I guarantee I can get it under 25 bucks. I said, you do that, I'll figure out how to sell them. 2 or 3 weeks later, I get a FedEx package from the port of LA. We had a half a container on the water. Sure enough, $12.95 is what we paid for not a knockoff and not a second. It was an overrun of Columbia jackets, the exact same jacket that I bought for $150 in Nordstrom's. At that point, I became a wholesale distributor and learned more about it than I ever wanted to, because I had to figure out how to sell those coats. And I ended up taking the second company to ever retail products on the World Wide Web public. I tell you all that because I know a thing or two about import, export, and more importantly, wholesale distribution. And I'm going to tell you right now, Amazon's changed everything in the last 20 years. Everything they've done with Prime and everything they've done with manufacturers and wholesale distributors, they've all become drop shippers. And because we're a closed loop system and a bank, and we answer to our card members, not to shareholders, we don't need to mark them up as much as most retail establishments do. And that's why we're able to get such a great value and have so many products come on. It took 20 years for Amazon to become a rinky-dink, go from being a rinky-dink bookstore all the way to the behemoth that they are now. But it won't take us 20 years. But Rome wasn't built in a day. We'll have tens of thousands and eventually millions and millions of products that you want. Everything from high-end jewelry and furniture and decor and perfume and you name it, we'll have it. Why? Because the manufacturers want to sell to anybody that wants to buy, and all they care about is getting paid and getting paid in a timely manner. And that's what we bring to the table from our side of the table. And we've tied it to the banking institution. Oh, yeah. Peter wants me to bring up the payment terms. Right now, if you go to any major manufacturer that's selling on Amazon for Prime, they're stretched out a minimum of 90 days before they get the cash. So both Walmart and Amazon pay 90 days after the product sells. That's just what they do. And we pay before the club, before anything even ships. So before they even ship it to our client, our card member, the manufacturer, the wholesale distributors already got money in the bank. That's why we're able to get the great deals. That's why we're able to do this. It's because we don't have to take possession of the products or services. Amazon's already done all that heavy lifting for us. We just came in behind, and the speed of money is what makes the difference. Patrick, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that's fantastic. That makes a lot of sense. And I know that obviously Amazon is selling at a large markup. I understand our markup's going to be quite a bit smaller.
Yeah, everybody asks me all the time, how are we able to get like 50% off or the diapers? Well, let me just appeal to your logic. When you go into a mall and buy a pair of shoes, is there margins in those shoes? Of course there is. They've got to keep the lights on, they've got to pay their staff, and they want to make a profit. Normally there's a double, sometimes even a triple in all products that you buy between wholesale and retail. And we just don't need the margins, that whole big markup, because we're a banking structure. We mark it up slightly. So every time a Z-Buck's earned and every time one's redeemed, our company gets paid for the benefit of the members to improve the overall system that we put out here. I keep saying that because you got to understand, when we put this together, we both looked at each other and said, so what do we want to do? And we talked about, do we want to actually liquidate this and get bought by a great big bank? And the answer was no. Then I got to go do something else. And we're both doing exactly what we're passionate about, and that is the Transact card ecosystem. We want to put into the world a social economic change that's second to none. And that's why we've done what we've done. So we put 90% of the ownership of Transact card in trust for the benefit of the card members. And that's just what we've done. That other 10% Some of it's between the two of us and then the management team that's helping make this happen. But the vast majority of the ownership, up to 90%, in fact, over 90%, is actually held in trust for the benefit of its members, the card members.
That's great. So, Peter, do you mind telling us a little bit about your background? We heard a little bit about Richard's and his side. I know you're the banking side, and that's a really important piece of this. Do you mind just giving us your history, if you will? And one of the questions I have is, who's funding this? I mean, there are a lot of great ideas that run out of money before they get off the ground. And so how is this established? How is it funded? And, who is Peter? And do you say Francie is how you say your last name, or?
Rancy.
Francie.
Well, greetings, Patrick, and everyone else on the call. I'm from Melbourne, Australia. I've spent nearly 4 decades in the banking world. I'm not a banker. If you ever meet me face to face, I'll tell you that I'm not a banker. But I've spent 4 decades hanging out with bankers, from small outfits to some of the world's top 100 banks, and helping them build their customer product offerings in order to draw billions of funds from other institutions into their institutions. So that's the background in Australia initially, and then in other places. And I've spent the last 10 years in the US, understanding the US community banking system. That's who are our partners in this process. And it's my experience with bankers at the coalface that's enabled us to put the banking piece, the Visa card and interchange fees that make the whole system flow. So Richard's the champion of the e-commerce platform. I'm the champion of the banking platform, and it's my banking experience and network that allows us to put the rails underneath the e-commerce platform.
So, speaking of rails, what rails are these cards being processed on?
Visa.
Explain what rails are.
Yeah. Well, I use rails in a general term, but in the payment processing world, rails has a specific term, and we're using the Visa rails. We are deliberately Visa rather than MasterCard. In some ways, they're both the same, but Visa's a bit larger and a bit more innovative. That suits what we're trying to accomplish. And as we get ready to grow globally down the track, not for the next 2 or 3 years, but Visa is a better platform to explore the whole world. And by the way, you can tell that I don't have a US accent. So how come I'm an expert on US community banks? Well, that's a long story, but the short version of it is that when I first moved over from Australia to the US, I looked for a champion of US community banks and partnered up with Terry McEwen. He's an African American, an expert on banking. He was the director of banking for the state of New Jersey from 2006 to 2010. So he's expert on the regulatory side, but he's also built banks and turned around banks. And he and I together have been in dozens of banks at the coalface, looking at their needs and their weaknesses and their strengths, and that's the segment that I chose to work with. So Terry's currently the president and CEO of a minority bank, and as we expand our banking hub, we'll be working mainly with minority banks in the US to support that social impact element of our enterprise. That is the underbanked, the unbanked, and those whose incomes are limited. We want to change their buying power.
That's one of my favorite things about this, you guys, the fact that we're working with the minority-owned banks, the community banks. And this project, if you all understand this, we're not working with the Chases and the Bank of Americas and the Wells Fargo's. These are small local community banks that can funnel some of these deposits, a large portion of the deposits from the larger banks to these smaller ones. I have heard people ask, are they going to stand for it, and are they going to step in and try to squash us like a bug? And how do we avoid that?
So that's a good question. That's a fair question. The answer is that they won't take any notice during these early stages, and by the time they do take notice, it'll be too late for them. And there's one other relevant fact that I forgot to mention. I'm a co-founder of an organization called the United States Bankers Association. So go figure that someone with an Aussie accent is a co-founder of the United States Bankers Association, but that's a fact. And we've got about 50 member banks at the moment and are growing that. And the entire objective of that whole association is to give new clout to the community banks who are getting either eroded or gobbled up by the major banks.
We like to think, at least I do, I like to think of ourselves as the equalizer for those smaller banks. The big banks have two advantages that the smaller banks don't have, and that is access to the FID window to prop up their tier one capital. And the second thing is Madison Avenue. They just pencil whip a great big check and buy ad space and come up with programs to bring in new depositories and new clients. We like to feel like what we're doing with our digital branch offices, our influencers, and a host of other ways that we're going about getting cards into our ecosystem, that we're an equalizer for those smaller banks. Peter looks at them a little bit more like a commodity, those banks, because the one thing we need is the fact that they're a bank and their transfer license, as well as their FDIC insurance. And I look at it as kind of the Robin Hood, that we're bringing good people with good hearts and souls to small banks that want to take care of them, is kind of how we both look at it. So
Patrick, I've got a conflicting meeting coming up shortly. I don't want to shortchange this group though. So if you or the team have any questions that you want to ask of me before I've got to exit, then let's jump in.
Sure. There's some questions coming in the chat. One is, how soon is this going to be available globally, not just nationally? I know we're focused on domestic initially. You can use the card anywhere Visa is accepted, but how soon will the business side be available globally? And then also people are asking, how soon can we see what's actually in the product lineup? Do they have to be a DBO first? Is there a way to look at that? Those are two of the questions I've seen here.
So let me answer both of those. One, the international horizon, in a 5-year plan, it's inside it, but in a 2 to 3 year plan, it's outside it. So we're going to make sure that the US base is solid before we go looking elsewhere.
Right.
Second, no one can look inside it at the moment, including potential DBOs or existing DBOs. But on May 20th, that event that you mentioned, we'll announce the first release of that with X number of products in it, and then it will keep expanding from there.
Right.
Just to let you know, as far as a world expansion, I'm kind of the holdup, not the banking side. I don't want to roll this out to the world unless we can have somewhat of the same experience with the Z Club that we're going to have here domestically on a global basis. It just doesn't seem like the prudent right thing to do with what we're trying to do. So I've got to get my act together on drop shipping products on a global basis. Peter will be able to move much quicker on the banking side of things, but we're going to do it right. There's no reason to rush to this. Let's do it right here in America, prove up the model, and have a bunch of Americans doubling their purchase power, and then we'll take it around the world.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Speaking of drop shipping, one of the biggest appeals to people with Amazon is obviously a Prime membership and free shipping. How do we compete with that with the Transact card?
I'm going to answer this in a very blunt way. Would you rather have free shipping, or would you rather have the cost of the goods be half of what? So you could buy a laptop for $2,500 or get it for 2,500 Z-Bucks and pay $12 shipping and handling. Which one's a better value proposition?
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Good answer. I do have to go, Patrick. Anything else quickly before I exit?
Oh, thank you.
Richard's here for
the duration.
Thank you, Peter. We really appreciate it. We're excited to work with you on this, and I'm sure we'll get to know each other better.
Patrick and team, look forward to meeting you all face to face. Thank you.
Thank you much.
Yeah.
So let me answer that also in a second way. Most of the manufacturers and wholesale distributors have had to build in prime pricing anyway, because they've been eating the shipping anyway. So a lot of our products will be nominal shipping, if not free, just like Prime, because they've already got it built into their model to deal with Amazon. In fact, it was kind of interesting. I talked to a major golf manufacturer. In fact, they're owned by Adidas. So they got mad at me the other day for dropping their name so much, so I'm going to stop. But Scott Stilton's over the Amazon account for this golf equipment manufacturer. And basically what he said to me was, Amazon's forced us to be a drop shipper, and they forced us to carry inside our pricing structure, shipping and handling. So they alone will, everything you buy from them inside the Z Club, there'll be no shipping charges whatsoever. I'm not going to say that that's going to be unified across the board, but it seems like they're the ones that are going to get a lot of traction when you can buy it with the buy down of Z-Bucks plus get free shipping. Seems like it'll be a winner.
Absolutely. One question we were asked is if the card can be white labeled or the DBOs, and that's one of the things that actually appealed to us is the way you're bringing on influencers. They're branding their own Visa card. And I mean, maybe the two of the biggest are the Republican National Convention and the Democratic National Convention. You took it to Trump, and then he took it to Obama, from what I've heard.
That's exactly right.
Do this. It was really smart, because whether you like Trump or Obama, it doesn't matter. But he said, if we don't both support this, then one of us is going to kill it, right? And so that's pretty significant. I think it's actually a great example of trying to cross the aisle and work together maybe on something. But these major influencers like LeBron James and Garth Brooks and some very large churches, the RNC, the DNC, that's a really interesting piece to this, because not only is it giving it more and more credibility, but there's also this element, everybody, if you haven't seen this, where you can earn match enrollments. So if you share it with let's say you become a digital branch office, you share this with someone, for every one you get, the company's going to give you one of these house leads. Very quickly you can go to 5 to 1, 10 to 1, 25, all the way up to 100 to 1. Literally, if you brought on a church or an association or someone with 1,000 members, the company would give you 100,000 house leads. And that's the progression of that is mind-boggling, Richard.
It's not just that. It's not just a lead. It's actually a house account. So LeBron James was a fascinating one, and I'm the one that took the call. So I'll tell you that story. I like telling the stories because most people can start to relate with, wow, this is something big here. So it was about 18, 19 months ago, I talked to LeBron James. Talked to him by myself, just him and I and one of his agents. And basically he told me the story about what he did with Twitter. He calls his followers on Twitter his peeps. So at the time he had 25 million peeps or 25 million followers. He tweeted out a 2-for-1 Domino's pizza and sold over $13 million worth of pizza with that one tweet. They gave him $1 million and they made $13+ million. And it was a very successful Twitter campaign. Once he fully understood and grasped what we were doing with the Transact ecosystem and the fact that he could have his face on that card. Now, right, granted, we're not just going to let anybody have their own card, their own face on their card. Somebody that's got 10,000 or more clients, yeah, we'll go through the rigmarole to get approved with the banking structure and with Visa to have a branded card. So yes, that's a possibility. But he came in and said, all right, I want to call mine the championship card and I want to tweet it out. And let me get this straight. I'm like, okay, LeBron, what? Every time somebody swipes, I get paid. I said, yeah, 10 basis points. You're going to give me 1/10 of what interchange pays back. No, I said, not 1/10, 10 basis points. He's like, that's a lot of money. I said, it can be. And he goes, no, that's a lot of money. And I'm like, it can be. And he goes, and you're going to pay me that forevermore? And I said, yes, we are. And he's like, can I move my merch into your Z Club? And Patrick, I'm like, merch, what the crap is he talking about? He was talking about his merchandise. So he's got his
swag
and swag. He's got his swag, and he's going to discontinue it with all the retail establishment and the wholesale distributors that he's been dealing with and move it into our Z Club so that his peeps can swipe the cards, get a better discount than they can get anywhere else for his merchandise. He'll make a bigger margin. Everybody's happy. Plus, he kept going back. Now, if they go to Disneyland and they swipe the card, I'm getting paid. I said, yes, LeBron, you're getting paid. He goes, this is the most incredible thing in the world. Well, that was, like I said, 19 months ago. And just a couple of weeks ago, I got a call from his executive secretary saying, where are we with this thing? I said, you need to go talk to your people because your agents and your attorneys keep slowing down the deal. Anyway, she's going to get on it. We'll see what happens. But every person that we've talked about or let you know, we're either in full contract and doing it with them, or we've got a letter of intent and we're doing it with them. So the answer is we're bringing the clients. The way we want you to look at our Transact card ecosystem is more like a franchise, and we will be a franchise down the track here. Takes a process to get through it, and less like a direct sales or a multi-level. Even though we pay multiple levels of digital branches, we pay you from people swiping their card. It's a totally different model than anything you've ever seen before. You get paid cash every time somebody earns a Z-Buck going down the track. So you get paid just like LeBron will get paid. And that's what's got such appeal to this is not only do you get to go out and take the contacts on your cell phone and your Twitter feed and your social media feeds, but every time you bring a client, we're going to match you with one of our influencers, just like McDonald's does, or just like Crumble does, or just like Subway does. They advertise for and behalf of their franchisees. That's what we're doing. We're just doing it we're not writing a letter or a check to Madison Avenue. We're actually using influencers, paying them and paying you because you're the digital branches.
Yeah, it's one of the pieces of this, guys, that just blew our minds because there's been a lot of affiliate opportunities out there, a lot of direct sales opportunities, and most of them, it is your efforts, maybe a little bit of help from your recruiter or your upline, your sponsor, your mentor. But for the most part, you are on your own. But Transact Card has created this opportunity for us to literally, in a sense, partner with some of the largest influencers in the world and benefit from their brands and their efforts in the process. And we have to do our part. The more we share. If you become a DBO and you share it with 3 other DBOs, not only do you get a $500 bonus immediately, but you also move to the next level where now you're getting a 5-for-1 match. And so if you haven't seen that, we can send out the information on that afterwards. You can see the breakdown of it. But that is a game changer when it comes to affiliate sales or word of mouth marketing. I've never seen it before, Richard. I know you've been in this industry and the e-commerce and direct sales for some time. You've never seen it before, right?
No, there's never been a company that I'm aware of that actually treats you just exactly like a franchise and brings customers to you and matches them up that way. when I put pen to paper when we first started putting this together, I'm like, man, if we could get just 5, 10 TCMs to every DBO, we're going to blow the doors off of what gets paid out in the organization. Well, come to find out, when we start matching things up, we're going to have 25 and 31. So the monies that are going to be made are phenomenal. It's phenomenal for an individual with just their digital branch, and the fact that you get a franchise, your franchise. Would you rather have 1 Starbucks or 4? Would you rather have 1 McDonald's or 20? It's a very simple mathematics. You don't have to pay for them. You assist other people to get them, but you make the exact same money of the digital branches that are below you as you do on your own. And we did it that way for a certain purpose. The 10 basis points is phenomenal. We're the only institution on the planet, banking institution, that shares an interchange. That is the most guarded, kept secret with the banks, because that's where all their cash flow comes from, is the interchange. It gets paid to them from everybody that swipes. The merchants pays those merchant fees, and the issuer of the card gets the lion's share of them. We get them, and we're sharing them with the digital branches. And I get asked over and over again, are you paying us in Z-Bucks? No, we're paying you cash. The Z-Buck is the reward system for your clients swiping the card.
Right. As we looked at this, there's 3 things that stood out to us. The first was this, first, even before the match from the influencers, really was the fact that you don't have to buy anything that you're not already buying. All right. People are taking part in this, participating in this, and benefiting from it by buying their gas and buying their groceries and doing everything they already do. They just have to change the card they pay for it with. Yep. Secondly, the fact that this influencer piece of it could multiply the benefits to you in a way that I've never seen before in 30 years in business. And then lastly, as you look at the compensation plan, you become a DBO, it's $495 to become a digital branch office. Go and share it with 3 other people, and they immediately refund that $500. You actually make $5. Yep. And we did that in their first day. It's not hard to do. But then on top of that, quick launch, quick recoupment of your investment, the levels that you can achieve as you go up from there are not that difficult. It's not this plan that's going to take you 2 years to get through, or you have a 5-year plan hoping to get to the highest level. You could literally do it in a matter of days or weeks. And so that's a really important point, I think, because as you said, Richard, you're paying out the lion's share to the field. You and Peter and your managers, you're keeping a small percentage of. Now it's going to be a pretty big pot when all is said and done, but it's a small percentage of the overall payout. And that says a lot about you and your partners and how you're approaching this whole business as a way to organically give back to the communities and give back to the people. And so any more thoughts on that, or any questions out there, guys, about that comp plan and how it works?
Let me just put in this. We're a social impact enterprise. What does that mean? We're structured much like a charity, with not being a charity. We're for profit, but we act like a duck, we quack like a duck, and we fly like a duck, and we walk like a duck. What does that mean? We created this by having all the ownership and trust for the benefit of the card members. Listen, we're talking about just one aspect of a banking institution, a debit card. Most banks offer a credit vehicle, a credit card. Are we going to have that? Yep. We just want to make sure it's cheaper than anybody else out there, so that you're not paying 27% APR interest on your money. I mean, talk about smoke and mirrors. We'll give you 2% cash back, but you're getting charged more than 2% monthly interest on those purchases you've made. I mean, you're basically, the first month you're back to zero again on the cash back part of that. Right. Secondly, we wanted to create something that will truly create wealth for individuals. If you actually engage with us and get involved and become a manager, just do that. Go get 3 people, get refunded your money, and then lose your life in the betterment of others and help them get their money back. At that point, you now have a total of 12 digital branches underneath you, because your 3 went and got their 3. That's 9. You add it all together. You've got 13 branches that are now working. You go sign people up and we start matching for you 5-to-1. So what does that do for you? Well, we're trying to get you to a full-time income. Well, what does a full-time income look to you? I don't know. It's all over the board. To me, I want you all to make somewhere between $10,000 and $25,000 a month. That's a full-time income for me. Can you do that on as little as 13 digital branches? Yeah, but it's even easier if you help those 9 get their 3, which is now 27. Now you got 36 branches you're working with, and it just becomes much, much easier because you get paid on every swipe on your entire community of branches and their card members. And that's the leverage that we place in this. And we pay out 1.3% of every interchange back to the field. So we divide it up amongst 10. LeBron needs his chunk. You guys get your chunk. And that's just how we've done it.
Incredible. One of the questions that I've seen come through is do we actually interact with the community banks? Do we choose a bank we're working with? Is there any sort of interaction or relationship with these minority?
It will be down the track as Peter puts this together. Like he told you, he's working with a little over 50 minority and small banks. Eventually, we're going to get to the point where you're going to get a choose. Right now, we put you where we're going to put you. We do treat them a little bit like a commodity right now. And the reason we do that is because we do all the heavy lifting for and behalf of these small banks. Some of them are still working on their computer system and they're still using DOS. We have to go in and recalibrate their entire computer system so that we can even bring the customer with everything we've got going off with the Transact card. So it's a working process, both sides. I look at my world as dealing with the digital branches and the card members, and ultimately our customers are the card members. Peter looks at it more like, yep, they're our customers, but the small to medium minority-owned banks are our real customers, and we service them. It gives them such a competitive advantage. The fact that Power Savings goes into Tier 1 capital and the clients is a depository in those small banks. You can't even know what we do to a small bank when Transact comes into their ecosystem.
Oh, it's a game changer for them.
Yep.
You could even say a godsend, right?
It could.
Many of them are struggling. We know small businesses struggling. Many of the smaller banks are struggling. They're FDIC insured, but they need help. And so it's one of my favorite things about this. If I had to add one more to the 3, the 4th is that this can, in fact, help strengthen our local communities, our local banks, our local businesses. So can a small business become a vendor, and what does that look like? They sign up as a DBO?
Yeah, in fact,
clientele, or how does that work? Just for everybody.
I really like to table this until after the 20th because we've got some new products that are going to come that a businessman that's, let's say he's a cabinet maker and he's got 40 employees and he wants to get involved and make payroll on the Transact card. There's going to be a way for them to do it in a very, very easy way. They're going to get paid and you'll get paid by bringing that company on board or a payroll company. Let me table that until after the 20th when we roll out some of those new products. That's kind of an in-between a TCM and a DBO. And once the whole tapestry is unveiled, you guys will go, oh, now it makes sense exactly what you want us to do and how you want us to go about this.
Right. So what if